Hello, welcome to Statecraft IAS and Social Perspectives Sociology in Newspaper series. In this series, we shall discuss daily news articles in sociological perspective and revise relevant sociology related UPSC mains concepts with the help of a newspaper on daily basis. In today's video, we have an article talking about Chinese education or Chinese new policy on education. It says, Xi government dealt a death blow to private educational industry with new regulations. What those new regulations are in brief? They are intended to, the new regulations, industry experts say, may go as far as turning all private education companies into non-profits as well as barring them from going to the stock market. So the new Xi government, what has it decided was, it has barred all private educational institutions to go for non-profit. It has urged all private educational institutions to go for non-profits, and it has barred every institution to go into the stock market and borrow foreign exchange or foreign contributions. In that manner, private educational institutions are now bound to become service oriented and expect no profits from anyone. The cited reasons were understandable, aimed at easing the burden on Chinese students and their families amid the hugely escalating cost of private tuition. In regard to escalating costs of private tuitions, the government has taken this decision. The most didn't come out of the blue. Mr. Xi has on several occasions highlighted high education costs as a bane. Chinese authorities are also aware that it is the reason most often cited in the surveys of families explaining why China's population growth rate is falling despite relaxing family planning measures. China's population growth rate is falling because parents could not afford the private institutions. So affordability is at stake here. That's why government has urged all the private educational institutions to grow for non-profit. In that manner, government is trying to make education more accessible and affordable. So this brings equality of opportunity for everyone to study and grow. That was the intention of the Chinese government. But if we see education and social change chapter in our syllabus, why education is important, before we discuss that particular article in social perspective, let us see why education is important. Because it initiates social change, it has capacity to welcome change, it ensures equality of opportunity. See, we have already discussed here why government is trying this move, to ensure equality of opportunity. In the same way, education ensures equality of opportunity. It is a moral agent. That means values like empathy and rational investigation are given because of education. It has economic role also, because education gives employment. Employment improves income. Income in turns improves living standards. Living standards in turn education, employment, income. So it spurs a positive circle. In that manner, education is important, or it has economic role. It fights orthodoxy, promotes liberal ideas. Education is means for social mobility. See, as we have seen here, education is leading to employment, and employment leading to more income, and it is improving living standards. So social mobility, that means vertical social mobility, can be ensured because of education. Education also accelerates the social change. So for all these reasons, education is important for every individual. Now if we look into the perspectives of education on social change, we have Sumner saying transmission of the mores of the group to the child. That means learning what is approved and what is not in the society, how to behave in all kinds of cases, what is ought to be believed and respected is given by education. That means schools act as miniature societies according to Durkheim, because schools are epitomes of society. What is all happening in the society, it is reflected in schools. So students or kids get exposed to the society in schools itself. They come to know what all is happening in the society, how society behaves, how society adjusts itself, how society responds to some kind of situations. All that is learnt by the kids in schools itself, because schools also act in the same manner as the society. So schools are epitomes of society that are beneath a society. Children learn to respect norms of the society and be part of larger group. In that manner, schools are agents of transmission of social norms. Durkheim says education is the socialization of younger generation, because it helps in impartation of skills which sustain division of labor in society. Durkheim is always concerned about division of labor, and in that too he is concerned about normal division of labor, not forced or anomic division of labor, because for Durkheim, division of labor ensures solidarity in the society. Division of labor ensures solidarity. How? Because of division of labor, because of division of labor, difference and dependence emerges. Because of this dependence, everybody has some need with another person, and out of that need solidarity comes. In that manner, Durkheim says division of labor is must in the society, and this education helps to sustain the division of labor. Why? Because everybody can't be engineers, and everybody can't be doctors, everybody can't be architects, everybody can't be dentists, or everybody can't be lawyers, etc. So each individual chooses his path depending upon his interest. In that manner, education is giving rise to some need of every individual with every other individual. That need, Durkheim says, gives rise to solidarity in the society. Moreover, Parsons says education plays a key role in role allocation in an increasingly specialized industrial economy. Further, we have feminists like McRobian Swilly and Paul Willis criticizing education and schooling. They say schooling reproduces appropriate feminine roles in girls, reproduces gender stereotypes, because how society is behaving, the same manner school also behaves, because schools are miniature societies. So if society is feminine in nature, or if society is masculine in nature, or if society is stereotypical, or if society is so sexist, that same manner is reproduced in the schools also. So school reproduces appropriate feminine roles and reproduces gender stereotypes, as McRobian Swilly rightly said. Paul Willis says it promotes aggressive masculinity, because boys using derogatory language that is unchecked in schools effectively. So boys use derogatory language in the society, and in the same manner in schools also boys use derogatory language, and girls get accustomed to that behavior. They get accustomed, and they tend not to fight that kind of behavior when they face it in the society, because they are already habituated to such kind of behavior in schools. So they find no wrong with that behavior when they come across such behavior in the society. Differential education leads to differential reproduction of cultural values. We have Marxist. This particular view is highly important or relevant to our article, because Marxists like Althusser in Ideology and Ideological State Apparatus, they say education is the most important ideological state apparatus appropriated by the ruling classes to pursue their own ideas and interest, and it reinforces dominant ideology and thus hinders real social change in the society. See, Marxist view is completely contradictory to what we have learnt about education. We have learned that education initiates social change. It accelerates social change, it has capacity to welcome change, etc. But Marxists say education actually hinders the social change, hinders real social change. Why? Because it is only reinforcing dominant ideology. It is not trying to alter or trying to go against any dominant ideology. So education is actually hindering real social change in the society, and it is merely leading to reproduction of labor force. How? So see, in education we have learned to be engineers, we have learned to be doctors, or lawyers, So what is education reproducing? Mere employees under some capitalists, employees of capitalists. So the necessary labor force that is required for capitalist education is producing, and it is doing nothing else. So according to Althusser, education serves capitalist and it reproduces capitalist ideology. It just serves the purpose of industrialists and capitalists. Here Bowles and Ginty says in Schooling in Capitalist America 1976, school is a giant myth-making machine with a hidden curriculum which serves the interests of the dominant groups. We have the same ideology what Althusser is trying to say. Bowles and Ginty also have the same opinion about education. Ivan Illich on the other hand says, people confuses teaching with learning, grades advancement with education, and a diploma with competence. Schools suffocate creativity and de-skill the individuals as they become more dependent on capitalist system. See, to change such kind of behavior by schools only, Chinese government has come up with this kind of policy to go to urging them to go for non-profits, because Chinese, we all know, is a Marxist or is a communist country, and it has or it reinforces or it tries to impose Marxist ideology in its policies. So in that manner also, in that same manner, by taking into consideration the Marxist view on education, Chinese government might have taken such steps to urging the schools to go for non-profit. It does not want schools to reproduce or schools to be more dependent on capitalist system. It is going against capitalism while urging them to go for non-profits and barring them to borrow any foreign contributions. Schools promote passive consumption, and that is an uncritical acceptance of the existing social order. It is irrelevant to our discussion. We have other thinkers saying, Mark Twain's famous quote, "I never let my schooling in the way of my education." This we can use while criticizing education system. Raymond Borden in his book Education, Opportunity and Social Equality, written in 1974, says, role of education in providing avenues for social mobility is not very significant. See, here we have learned that education, it is means for social mobility, but what Raymond Borden says is role of education in providing avenues for social mobility is not very significant. Education based on quality only perpetuates inequality. Pierre Bourdieu says education reproduces cultural capital, because what culture is followed in the society, the same culture is reproduced in the schools also, because kids also tend to follow the same culture that is followed by their parents and by their relatives in the society. On the other hand, Sally Tomlinson says he laments education as it is being reduced as a means of economic development. Taking this view into consideration only, Chinese government has imposed such policy to go for non-profits. This makes children to understand that education is not mere means of economic development. It has some bigger role to play, not mere means of economic development. It has some bigger role to play. Education should be liberalizing, humanizing and democratizing force. So in this article we can conclude that Chinese government has taken into consideration Marxist views on education. Marxist views on education, and it is trying to decapitalize education. To improve equality of opportunity, to ensure division of labor in the society. In that manner, it is trying to improve solidarity in the society, in Durkheim's view. So, moving on to the next article. Here we can see women beat officers bring in sense of security and comfort. All 11 police stations in the Northwest District have deployed 4 policewomen each to patrol areas. Initiative undertaken by DCP Usha Rangnani. Now, why this particular initiative is undertaken by the DCP? To provide a sense of security and comfort to women in the society. That means, in Talcott Parsons' perspective, in his Agile functional prerequisites, Parson has said that political system always try to attain its goals through determining some goals. Here, what are these goals? To provide security and comfort to women in the society. These are goals. So goals have already been determined. Motivating the members of the system to attain these goals. What has DCP done here? She has deployed 4 policewomen, each to patrol areas at 11 police stations. That means motivating the members of the society has already been done to attain these goals. Mobilizing the members and their energies for the achievement of these goals. This has also already been done to attain this goal. So here political system is merely trying for goal attainment in the society. What is that goal? What are those goals? Security and comfort to be provided to women. So these are goals. Now Parsons says in Agile functional prerequisites, each system contributes or cooperates with other system. So what is social system doing in this particular example? It tries to maintain pattern and tension management within the system, performed by the socialization process of the members. Yes, how socialization process is happening here? Because with that sense of security and comfort given by the political system, women tend to come out of their homes freely. We'll see in the contents of the article how they are feeling free when beat officers have been employed. Come out of homes and get mingled with other employees or other students if they are students. Basically, they get mingled with larger society. In this manner, socialization is actually happening of those women. If not for these beat officers, many women in that particular area might have been confined to their homes and might have given up their jobs or education. So by this sense of security and comfort given by those beat officers, they are coming out of their homes, and in that manner socialization is actually happening. How tension management is taking place? Tension management is nothing but in this particular example, if women have come out of their homes because of lack of security and comfort, they might have got to face some issues like harassment or groping, etc. That is tension in this particular example. Because those women officers or beat officers have been employed in that particular area, this society is trying to manage that tension by giving some sort of latency within the system. It is trying to keep things cool in the society by providing some latency to that tension. Now what cultural system is doing? It is trying to integrate. That means it is trying to maintain coherence in the society, solidarity and coordination by cultures and values. What are these cultures and values? To respect women, to give them their due, to allow them to perform, be it in education or be it in employment. All these are cultural values. That cultural values are given by the cultural system. Now how? If women officers have been employed, every male member or every other member in the society gets reminded of their responsibilities in the society, to show some respect to the women, to give their dignity. In that manner, those values are indirectly imbibed or they are taken care of by the cultural system if those women beat officers are employed. It's not required that cultural system also should do something for that integration. Just because these beat officers have been employed, this cultural system immediately comes into play, and it tries to cooperate with the political system by imbibing some sort of cultural values in the society, and in that manner it maintains solidarity, coherence and coordination within the society. This coordination, coherence and solidarity is among men and women. So what adaptation or economic system plays here? Adaptation is nothing but generation and acquisition of resources from outside the system to affect its distribution in the system. See, as women have come out of their homes in this particular example, they also contribute to economy by lending their hand and earning. They also try to become some earning hands in the society. In that manner, acquisition of resources will be augmented, generation of resources will be augmented, and distribution of resources also gets distributed equitably now. Not they are no more confined or biased towards men more than women. Now they will be distributed equally, because women are also participating in the economic system by contributing their worth. In that manner, economic system also tries to cooperate with the political system in attainment of these goals. So every system cooperates with every other system if political system decides some goals to be attained. Not just that political system must come forward and determine its goal first. If economic system comes forward and it takes a lead also, every other system cooperates with that system. In that manner, Parsons' functional prerequisites are highly relevant here. If you go into the contents of the article and see some examples how actually things are happening, here it is said, talking about a typical day, Constable Kiran, who is 38, who is posted in the Bharatnagar police station, very calm yet firm in her command, said she reports to the police station as per her shift for the day and then proceeds to her beat, where she and Constable Rinku take a few rounds of the area, mostly residential with a hospital, temples and market. Then they stay at their booth and move around the area for every few hours. Seeing women officers, people would initially ask us if we are there only for show off. We told them it will be a regular affair now, and so far the response has been good from both men and women. Seeing a woman officer in public is a matter of assurance for other women that they are not alone. See, this is how socialization is actually happening. Constable Preeti posted in Ashok Vihar police station. They feel safer and comfortable. For them, approaching us is a lot easier than approaching a male officer. See, now approached officers or approaching police is happening in real. In that manner, socialization is actually happening. This is how social system works or adjusts itself to the changes. Sharing another experience, Constable Monica said they received a PCR call in her beat area and the caller, a woman, refused to open the door to male staff. But when Miss Monica reached and spoke to her from outside the gate, she opened it. That means this access or approachability is increasing now. In that manner, socialization is actually happening in the society because political system has acted or responded and has done something. Hello, welcome to Statecraft IAS and Social Perspectives Sociology in Newspaper series. In this series, we shall discuss daily news articles in sociological perspective and revise relevant sociology related UPSC mains concepts with the help of a newspaper on daily basis. In today's video, we have an article talking about Pegasus, which says a blemish on democracy. Apart from stating political perspective or polity related concepts in this article, there are some social perspectives or sociology related concepts, and let us examine them. The author says it is a reprehensible cyber weapon in the hands of dictators and bigots with the purpose of putting down dissent and killing critical thought. Moreover, this is a system of panopticon, an architectural edifice where the warden in a central tower can monitor the prisoners in their cells without the prisoners seeing the warden. So Pegasus being a spyware, the author says, or he draws its parallel with the panopticon. Panopticon is nothing but knowing more about the subjects by the ruler. Panopticism is nothing but the obsession with power through surveillance has brought in its wake not just the blitzkrieg of information, but also given rise to political systems that aim at behavior control, destroying the sanctity of the individual's privacy and thereby threatening democracies with serious consequences. Further, working against all norms of jurisprudence, the national security state remains legitimately above board, blatantly pursuing acts of social control through surveillance on the basis of national security. So here the author talks about social control. We all know social control is talked by Talcott Parsons in his Social Change. We shall talk about it later. Further, the author says, as Hannah Arendt argues, the state ensures not just the transformation of the outside world but also the very dysfunctionality of the unpredictable nature of human creativity and its spontaneity. Now, by looking into the contents of the article, we can draw some parallels of sociological concepts like Michael Foucault's theory. Michael Foucault, being a great scholar, in his book Discipline and Punish, The Birth of Prison, he says in this book that for state to exercise power, he says, now power and authority is a concept of Max Weber. When Max Weber has explained his concept of power and authority, Michael Foucault criticized Max Weber, saying that power and authority exist in various structures and various forms, and they are not just existent in the structures and forms that are defined by Max Weber. So, while criticizing such, in his book Discipline and Punish, The Birth of Prison, Michael Foucault says that to exercise power, state must have, or the authorities must have, information of the subjects. With the information comes power, says Michael Foucault. Information about what? Information about behavior, interests, likes and dislikes, ideology, etc. See, it is there in every level. Even if we are operating as a watchman, for example, to operate as a watchman or to operate as a guard to any establishment, you need to have information about the locality, information about the officers arriving to the industry, or information about people moving around, information about various activities going around in the area. With that information only you can exercise that action of being a watchman, and you can exercise power over others. Without information there is no meaning for power. Hence power comes or gets rooted from the information, says Michael Foucault. So to exercise power, the authorities are trying to gather information by establishing a surveillance state with tools and technologies like Pegasus. This has been the take on Pegasus or by Michael Foucault. If we analyze the Pegasus issue, if we want to analyze the Pegasus issue, first we have to understand the study of Discipline and Punish, The Birth of Prison by Michael Foucault, because it has been very significant to know why authorities are trying to create a surveillance state. Earlier, in sovereign states, what used to happen was there used to be rules, and if anyone deviates from those rules, punishment used to be there, and that punishment is open and known to everyone. Whereas in democratic societies or disciplinary societies, what is being happen is there are no outspoken rules, but there are certain norms, and there is a surveillance by everyone, and with that surveillance, discipline is imbibed or enforced on the individual, and the punishment is what? Forceful conformity. See, while we are going on roads also, there are some technological tools like speed trackers or traffic lights or CCTV cameras, etc. By seeing them, what we do, we know that someone else is observing our activities, and we forcefully get conformed to the rules or norms. We go within the speed limits, or we go within following the traffic rules, etc. In that way, our actions are determined by surveillance. Our actions or that kind of discipline is imposed upon us in democratic or disciplinary society. That leads to forceful conformity rather than deviance from the cultural goals and institutional means, if you want to talk in R.K. Merton's perspective. Hence, that has been the take or study of Michael Foucault regarding Pegasus issue. And if you want to talk about social control here, what Talcott Parsons says, there are two ways to bring social change in the society. Social change, there are two ways. One is socialization and the other one is social control. Socialization is nothing but imbibing of norms, values, etc. Social control is nothing but enforcement of law, police action, etc. Now, in today's society, this social control is being achieved not by the enforcement of law or police action, by imposing discipline through surveillance. That has been the recent development, and using Michael Foucault's argument, we can enrich our answers by broadening our understanding about the Pegasus issue. Now, this particular statement here, the future is not foreclosed, and as long as there is critical inquiry, there is hope. Now, these kind of statements we can use in our essays or answers in the conclusions and enrich our answers. This kind of catchy phrases can be used to fetch more marks. As Howard Zinn, the historian, once said, we are supposed to be thinking people. We are supposed to be able to question everything. This kind of statements we can use in answers liberally to gain more marks. This is not specifically related to sociology. Now, moving on to the next article. Here we have an article talking about resistance in Europe for vaccination. Shouts of liberty have echoed through the streets and squares of Italy and France as thousands showed their opposition to plans to require vaccination cards for normal social activities. See, for normal social activities also, if they are requiring vaccination cards, this is nothing but a situation of excess of rules, excess of state intervention. Now, from that excess of rules and excess of state intervention, what happens is frustration is aroused among the individuals, and because of that frustration only these protests are being happen. Normal social activities such as dining indoors at restaurants, visiting museums, or cheering in sports stadiums. See, that's what happens in R.K. Merton's Conformity and Deviance. He says there are cultural goals and institutional means. If there is an equal emphasis between those two, there exists a situation called state anomy according to R.K. Merton. Now, there are 5 possible responses to the state anomy. One is conformity, where both goals and means are equally emphasized. Other one is innovative, where goals are emphasized but means are given up. That means people choose new means or innovate new means to reach those goals. Now, in ritualistic, goals are given up and means are adhered to. That means people, they know that they do not reach their goals even if they follow their means, but however they choose to adhere to their means because they are just ritualistic in nature. They don't mind even if their goals are compromised. The other one is retreatist. That means these kind of people give up both their goals and means, and they kind of retreat from the society, retreat from their goals, retreat from their means, retreat from society as a whole. The other one being rebellion, they give up both goals and means, but in what way they are different from retreatists is that these rebellion kind of people have alternative society in their mind, alternative social order or alternative ideology they have. With that ideology they move forward and they rebel against the authorities. Now, why this kind of deviance happens is explained by further sociologists like Albert Cohen says it is due to frustration. Frustration comes when there is excess of rules or regulations or continuous alienation from the society. Excess of rules or prolonged alienation. Because of this, frustration comes, and that frustration leads to deviance, says Albert Cohen. The same thing has happened in our particular article also. People are frustrated with the excess of rules, and they chose to deviate from the cultural goals and institutional means. Now what is cultural goal here? To stop COVID spread. What is institutional mean? To follow COVID appropriate behavior or to get vaccinated. Now people have chose to give up both their goals and means. That means this kind of deviance is happening only because of frustration, as Albert Kohut has rightly said. In that sense, his theory is highly relevant in this particular article. Further, here if you see, many say vaccine pass requirements are a source of inequality that will further divide society, and they draw uneasy historic parallels. Exactly what Durkheim has said in his division of labor is inequality or inequality of opportunity will further divide society and it undermines solidarity, according to Durkheim. See, Durkheim in his division of labor has talked about normal division of labor and abnormal division of labor. Abnormal division of labor he again divided into anomic and forced. Now why forced division of labor exists in society? Because of inequality of opportunity and lack of meritocracy. If any of them is there in the society, that leads to exclusion, alienation or social conflict. These things undermines solidarity, according to Durkheim. For Durkheim, solidarity is ultimate thing. So what he says is inequality of opportunity in a way undermines solidarity and leads to social conflict. That's what happened, or that is what is present in our article also. Why that thing happens? Durkheim says it is due to excess of rules by the authorities. See, this is a classical example of Durkheim's theory on this part. Here excess of rules have been there by the authorities, that means excess of rule even to undergo normal social activities, and those excess of rules has resulted in a form of inequality in the society, and that inequality is dividing society. We are creating a great inequality between citizens, said Simon in Verona, because he said he feared for his livelihood. We will have first class citizens who can access public services, the theatre, social life, and second class citizens who cannot. This thing has led to apartheid and the Holocaust. See how inequality of opportunity or inequality of access to public services have created apartheid and Holocaust in the past, and now also it is trying to divide the society. In that way, inequality of opportunity or inequality of access and lack of meritocracy will undermine solidarity, as Durkheim has rightly said. Now that's all we have for today. If you like the content, please like, share and subscribe to Statecraft IAS. If you have any comments or criticisms, or if you have anything to say, please comment and let me know in the comment section. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.